Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. I hope you're doing well and looking forward to the weekend. Now, let's talk about people who are naive, people who are biased, and willingly biased, people who are disingenuous, people who are dumb, or maybe people who are bits and pieces of all of the aforementioned, all right? We live in a very strange world, in very, very strange times. And sadly, there's no escaping it. Even if you run a boxing channel, the fact that there are so many people out there who just aren't very bright or have some sort of agenda, or it becomes apparent and it gets boring. Now, most of the people that watch these videos and leave comments, fine. And as I've said many times before, and you can check the comments, if people disagree with me, I'll have a chat with them. I don't mind. Unless they're being really stupid, or you'll say something and they miss a point, or they deliberately don't want to get your point. Then it becomes a case of, it's not a proper debate. It's just, there's no objectivity there. It's just one person bleating their, what they want to be true rather than what is true. There's no sort of logic and reason and common sense there. Now, the reason I mention this is because in boxing, this is very, very prevalent when people talk about their favourite fighters. Now, your favourite fighter is not necessarily the one that is the best. Those are two different things. And you might, if you're objective, you might acknowledge that a person is a brilliant fighter, but you don't like them as a person. For whatever reason, outside of the ring, they've said things or they've done things or they've behaved in a certain way. You don't like them. But if they've achieved a lot in boxing and you're objective, you'll say, well, yeah, he's a great fighter, but I don't like him. So in my case, and again, personal taste, I don't like Floyd Mayweather Jr. I think he represents everything that's kind of sort of vile and trivial and superficial, and anyone who calls themselves money, I mean, that kind of sums him up perfectly. What does he do with all this money? He spends a small fortune on clothes that make him look like an absolute tit, and he doesn't seem to have any class, and he doesn't seem to represent anything beyond maybe a few Patek Philippe watches that he's reduced the worth of because he's studded them with all sorts of second-rate diamonds or whatever to make them look even more garish and flash than they are. And nothing that ever comes out of his mouth has any sort of moral value, and yet at the same time he bleats on and on about God, this and God, all this bullshit. I mean, I've never liked the guy. I think he's disingenuous. I think he's dishonest. And I think I don't think he has any moral compass. Okay. But can you say that he is the best fighter of his generation? In my opinion, I could make a very, very compelling case stating that he is the best of his generation, all right? Other people disagree. That's a debate that can be had. So if someone says to me, I think Floyd Mayweather's overrated, okay, we can have that debate, because, yeah, maybe he is. Is he the best ever, TBE? In my opinion, no, he's not. But he is of his generation, of that era. I think you can make a very, very convincing argument for that. But what he's not is a bum. And what he's not is a coward, all right? Even though I don't like the guy, it would be so ignorant, so arrogantly, shamelessly stupid to call him a bum, or to say he's achieved nothing, or to say he's gutless, or to say he spent his whole career running. Oh, he's a runner. Here's his track shoes, and all that. First of all, he had two careers essentially. He had Pretty Boy Floyd, where he was a bit of a killer at the lower weights, and then when he got older and he had hand issues and so on, he moved up and he fought, in a very different way, which in itself is a tremendous skill. To reinvent yourself, to adapt, is very, very difficult to do, but he did it successfully. And in a sense, he had two Hall of Fame careers stuffed into one long career. But I don't like the guy. But he is a brilliant fighter. He was a brilliant fighter. No doubt about it. Another one would be Tyson Fury. Okay. So I don't like Tyson Fury. I think he's a gaslighter. I think he cons the public. I think he talks an absolute load of shite. I think he willingly knows that he's talking garbage. I think he he isn't an honest person. I'll leave it at that. I won't go into one like I did with Floyd just a moment ago. But was he at his peak an extremely good heavyweight? Yes, he was. Not the best of his era, in my opinion. I would say Usyk is the best of his era. But Fury at his peak was an extremely good, skillful heavyweight who went to Germany, ended the Klitschko era, thank God, because it was so boring. Then he had his whatever personal issues he had, failed a PED test and all the rest of it, mental health issues. That's a debate for another time. And then he came back, kind of reinvented himself, went to America, beat the undefeated. Well, he drew with him first, but it was really a win against Deontay Wilder. This, killer with the right hand, undefeated, and then he stopped him twice. And, can you say, well, I think Tyson Fury is overrated? Absolutely. Because don't forget, at one point he was saying, I'm not just the greatest of my era, I'm the greatest heavyweight ever, which of course was absolute nonsense. I can't believe even he believes that. And if his fanboys are dumb enough to believe that, then they must know nothing about boxing. Right? But he was a very good fighter. Overrated, you can have that debate. In my opinion, yes. But he's not a bum. He's not a coward. He's not gutless. You don't have that career. If you were to say to me something like, well, I think his resume is very thin, I would agree with that as well. But does that mean he's a bum? Does that mean he's crap? No, of course not. You have to be an imbecile to believe that. Now, another one who falls into this category where he gets a lot of what the young people tend to call hate. Any kind of criticism is hate. This word. I can only assume some of these people don't know what the hell these words mean. They've never seen a dictionary in their life. But Anthony Joshua, okay, I did a video a few days ago about Joshua and Dubois, and most people, this is thankfully the morons are a minority. Don't get me wrong. But a few people leaving comments. Joshua is a bum. He's never been any good. He's nothing. He's nothing. What do you mean he's nothing? He's a two-time heavyweight champion. Now, if you want to say, is he overrated? Yeah, maybe in some cases, but maybe he's underrated by others. And the thing about Joshua and Fury is that their careers are still going on. And you can only really historically judge them when their careers are over and the dust settles and you look at their body of work as a whole. But Joshua, all right, let's have a little quick stroll, a little saunter through his record, shall we? I mean, he turned pro in 2013. He fought, some domestic journeyman types, knocked them out all easily. There were a few people thrown in as well, weren't there? Like Gary Cornish. Okay, he won the Commonwealth title of Gary Cornish, but he was the first person to stop Kevin Johnson in 2 rounds. Jason Gavin did him in 3. Michael Sprott he did in 1. Sprott was completely shot, and he's a fighter who fought for way too long, kind of like Danny Williams. It's a shame, really. Did Konstantin Ehrlich and Matt Skelton got done in a couple of rounds, Matt Legg in 1. All the usual suspects from that era, domestically and international journeymen. Zambano was another one he did in a couple of rounds. Then he bumps into Dillian White in 2015. So it's 9 years ago. It's back end of 2015. Stops him in 7 rounds. White, 16-0 at the time. He gave Joshua a few things to think about, but Joshua knocked him flat, knocked him spark out with an uppercut, which turned out to be White's Achilles heel, or Achilles chin, should we say. And in his next fight, he picks up the IBF title against Charles Martin. Okay, now people say, Charles Martin was one of the worst heavyweight champions ever. Yeah, you can make a case for that. You can make a case. But for a guy who's essentially a novice, coming off wins over Gary Cornish and Dillian White, to just do him in 2 rounds, he was undefeated at the time, Martin. I think he had a draw on his record somewhere along the line, but 23 wins I think he had. That's not bad. That's a good fighter who, and he's turned out to be a little bit better than people thought. He's not a great fighter, Charles Martin, but to do him in 2 rounds, no one's done that since. No one's knocked him out that easily since and dominated him so convincingly. Then he took on Dominic Breazeale, again, not another guy who no one's going to mistake as being a brilliant, historically brilliant heavyweight. But he was undefeated in 17. Joshua got rid of him in 7. Eric Molina, was what it was. It was a gimme when it did him in 3 rounds. Never really had any heart, Molina, for the fire of battle, should we say. Then he had that dramatic fight with Vladimir Klitschko. And again, people will say Klitschko was beaten by Fury previously. He was in semi-retirement. He was 40 years old. All of it correct. And yet, Joshua had a real struggle with him. Got floored badly, almost stopped. But it was an incredible fight. Wembley Stadium, big event, So he built his, again, he went a few more rungs up the ladder. Fury didn't stop Klitschko. Joshua did, but there again, Fury didn't have any kind of trouble with Klitschko, and Joshua had hellfire with him. Then it was Takam in 10. Then he had Parker, who was undefeated at the time, 24-0. Look at what Parker's gone on to do. He's coming off some very good wins. Good fighter, Joseph Parker. Was the WBO champ at the time, undefeated, and Joshua, it was a boring fight, but Joshua did him in 12 rounds. Then he fought Povetkin. That was a 7th round TKO. He was badly shaken, had his nose busted early on. People say Povetkin was shot, which he wasn't. I think he was past his best. And Povetkin is one of those many fighters who failed a drugs test, so there's always a black mark above his head. But, Joshua got the job done, and he was only the second man to beat Povetkin, and he was the first to stop him. And Povetkin, of course, would go on to knock out Dillian White, lose the rematch. Then he lost his title to Andy Ruiz, the big, little fat doughboy, but what a skillful, tough man Ruiz is. Floored, got up, knocked Joshua down. Joshua wins the rematch. He then beats Kubrat Pulev, who at the time was 28-1, only been beaten once before by Klitschko. So knocks him out in 9. Then he had the 2 back-to-back defeats to Usyk. Went the distance on both occasions. Usyk, I think many people would agree with me when I say I think Usyk is by far the best, maybe not by far, but certainly the best heavyweight of this era. The win over Fury proved that. And, he clearly beat Joshua twice, but there's no shame in losing twice on points to Alexander Usyk. He's a brilliant fighter. And since then, he's had his little comeback with Jermaine Franklin over 12 rounds. 10 or 12, I think it was 12 rounds, wasn't it? Was it 10? 12-round fight, that was. Then he had, he beat him on points. Then he had Hellenius, where he got his nose busted. And again, his nose always seems to be busted, Joshua. And then we had Otto Wallin, who gave Fury hell. Joshua forced him to retire after 5 rounds. And then there was the 2-round blowout against Francis Ngannou. Very dramatic, but Francis Ngannou's never won a professional fight in his life. And Joshua did to him what Fury should have done. And now he's got Daniel Dubois coming up. So if you consider all those names that we've just gone through, I mean, you're talking about a guy who, there aren't many names apart from Fury who he's missed out on. So when people say Joshua's a bum, Joshua's crap, Joshua's don't talk to me about Joshua. For whatever reason, if you dislike the man, I mean, you can always tell when someone dislikes Joshua because they call him Femi, because for some reason that's considered an insult, even though it's part of his name, or they say he's racist. I think Big Meech is another one I've seen or someone call him. You can tell that people, they don't like him. So what do? Do they say, well, he's a pretty good fighter. He's a good fighter. He's a worthy champion. He's been, he's not the best of his era, but he's a good fighter. No, it's not good enough to just say you don't like him. It's crap. No. Same as to do with Fury. Fury, don't like him, so he's crap. Mayweather, can't stand the guy, he's crap. None of these fighters are crap, all right? You don't have to like a fighter to appreciate how good he is. And Anthony Joshua is an extremely good heavyweight who will probably get into the Hall of Fame. If he retired, let's say he beats Dubois, all right? People are going to say, well, Dubois got done he's quit twice, once against Usyk, and that was only a year ago, and blah, blah, blah. And, then he quit against Joyce. He had a busted eye socket. All right. Let's say he does beat Dubois. Then he goes on and fights Fury, finally, and he beats Fury. Well, Fury was past his best. Fury's no good. No, he didn't beat Usyk, did he? He didn't beat Usyk, but he beat Fury, beat Dubois, but he didn't beat Usyk. Some people, in short, are so full of shit that it's almost unfathomable that they can put one foot in front of the other. It's the old line about them not being able to walk in a straight line and chew gum at the same time. Bias is ugly. Bias is idiotic. And bias can be seen a mile away. All right. If you're a biased person, not a bias, but a biased person. There's an ED on the end of the word, okay? Because a lot of people have missed that off. I'm a grammar Nazi, sue me, right? If that's your mentality, you're not really a boxing fan, you're a fanboy, okay? So get a grip, grow up, try and be mature about things, be objective, because you'll be a better person if you're objective, if you think about things logically, with reason, throw a bit of common sense in there, you know, your life will improve because you'll be able to see the reality of the world, not just in boxing, but in any walk of life. You'll be able to see it better, and you'll be able to navigate your way through it in a happier way. You know, ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is ignorance. Ignorance is unattractive. You know, ignorance is the polar opposite of wisdom. In other words, if you're objective and you're open-minded, you'll become wise, regardless of whether we're talking about boxing or any kind of social issue or your life at work or whatever it is, politics, could be anything, religion. Be objective, all right? So that's my spiel for today. Quite a long one, this, but I've got it off my chest. Let me know what you think. Comments below. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe because you're helping the channel out a great deal. And if you like the video, hit the like button. And if you didn't like the video, hit the like button anyway, because you'll be a better person for it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate it. See you later. Bye for now.